Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Angela and today I'm going to be talking about some of the best bookstores in the United States. This video was suggested by the lovely Moonbook and thank you so much for the suggestion. I'm really excited to be discussing all of these bookstores with you. I love every single one of the bookstores that I've been to around the US, but these are the ones that hold a really special place in my heart. We are just going to jump straight into all of my bookstore recommendations. The first bookstore that I'm going to be talking about is Half Price. Half Price Books is a used bookstore chain peppered around the United States, and this particular location that I'm talking about is the one in Dallas. The store situated in Dallas is their flagship location and it is huge. It is very big, but it still maintains the cozy bookstore atmosphere that I love. There's a breadth of content that I cannot begin to describe. They have philosophy books, art history books, literary fiction, young adult fiction, teen fiction, although their young adult and teen are swapped. They have children's books, manga, literally anything you can imagine, and they are all used books, so they come for a fraction of the cost. A lot of the books are 30 to 50% off, and then you can get classics sometimes for $1. It is wonderful. And when you go in, because this is their flagship bookstore, they have shelves upon shelves upon shelves at the very back that are an entire clearance section. So used books on clearance, double discount. I love this bookstore to pieces. I used to live at this bookstore. I used to go in the morning, get myself a banana nut latte, which is sold in the cafe next door, and I used to browse for hours. It is my favorite bookshop on the planet because I live within driving distance of it, so I go pretty often, and this is one I love to pieces. The next bookstore that I want to talk about is located in Tampa, Florida, and it is called the Oxford Exchange. Now, the Oxford Exchange isn't exclusively a bookstore, and that's kind of what I love about it. It's a mixed-use space. It's part restaurant, part glasses shop, part design store, part champagne bar, co-working space, tea shop, there's a gift shop, there's a coffee bar, there's an art gallery. It is very intense, and all of these are integrated so beautifully that you feel like you're walking through one experience, but it's also isolated enough that you know what part of this mixed-use space you are browsing. I cannot begin to speak to the design of this place. It is so stunning. The walls are like this really dark wooden color. It has this really rich, dark academia atmosphere. I love the paintings that are hung up, the old world seats. It is a dark academia bookstore. They don't have a very large collection of books. All of their books are stacked up on black bookshelves, but you can find everything from a Tom Ford coffee table book to illustrated old edition of Winnie the Pooh. It is very wide, but you do have to be able to look and search and sift through, and that's part of the whole experience. And I love this bookstore. The next bookstore that I want to talk about is The Bookshop, which is located in Nashville, Tennessee. This is a small one-room bookstore. It is very tiny. You can literally just stretch your legs, take a couple steps, and you will have reached from the front to the back of the bookstore. That's kind of what I love about it. Because there's not a lot of space, they are very careful with what they curate, and you can tell it's a hand-selected curation, and so they have the cream of the crop when it comes to the books that they pick. So this is one bookstore where I found myself interested in almost every single book that was at the bookshop, and I wanted to take all of the shelves home because I could tell they put a lot of thought into what books they were collecting. This bookstore is owned by a woman who's been in the publishing industry for about 20 years, and she is in Nashville with her bookshop. I put her bookshop in air quotes because that was actually the original name of the bookstore, was her bookshop, and they later changed it to The Bookshop, and I loved it to pieces. It's definitely my favorite bookstore in Tennessee. They only have new books. They don't have any used books, but it is a very lovely, intimate selection, and the staff is just very knowledgeable about all the books they have. It is very sweet. Just feels like a neighborhood nook that has become a place for readers to rejoice within these shelves. The next bookstore that I want to talk about is also really small, and it's just a spit of a bookstore in Old Town Albuquerque, and that is Treasure House Books. This is a very unique bookstore in the fact that it almost exclusively carries local authors. You will not find a lot of authors outside of New Mexico. These are books that you will pretty much only find in the state. New Mexico does have this really rich culture. They took the time to celebrate it. It is in a very touristy district of Albuquerque, which I don't mind because it did feel like a hidden gem, which I love. So as a gift shop, as a bookshop, I think this was lovely, and it introduced me to so many authors that I would have never come across otherwise. Such a rich collection of New Mexican literature was just astounding to me. I got one book from there. I'm just gonna pull it off my shelf. Give me a second. book that I picked up from this bookstore is called Kotoka by Joseph Bruchac. I highly recommend this book. This is a middle grade novel that follows a Navajo boy. This book speaks specifically to the role that the Navajo people played during World War II and how much they helped fight for a country. So I think this is a very beautiful book. It does speak about the horrors of the war, but it doesn't do it in a way that's graphic. I also think this is one of the most unique middle grades that I've read, and I found this one in Treasure House Books. The next bookstore that I want to talk about is Lemuria in Jackson, Mississippi. I am obsessed with this bookstore. This is a bookstore that drew me out of such a big reading slump. Lemuria is one of the most beautiful bookstores that I've seen. It started out as an apartment bookstore, and since then it's moved several times. Just the facade is this bright red. There is a hand holding up an open book, and it is so magical. It feels like you're about to enter something from Harry Potter or like Willy Wonka. It just gives you that really magical experience. I think Lemuria is really the epitome of an indie bookstore. It has new releases, hardcover, paperback, but it also has such an emphasis on Southern literature, and I think that's one of the trademarks of a independent bookstore that I love so much, is this idea of carrying authors from that region. And Lemuria does such a fantastic job with this, because you will find Alice Walker, Angie Thomas, Eudora Welty, John Grisham, Donna Tartt, and I love Southern literature. I think it's so underrated, but this bookstore is basically one giant ode to Southern literature, and they also carry so many first edition books. They have a first edition book club, isn't that so cute? They have these little nooks that are created for reading, and it's just a whole atmospheric experience, and there's always a little bit more to discover than you think. There are these almost, I call them almost floor to ceiling bookshelves, because there's a little gap at the top, but they tend to stack books right at the top as well. This was the highlight of my trip to Jackson, and Jackson itself was like such a heavy literary destination. We went to Richard Wright's middle school, and then Eudora Welty's house. Eudora Welty has like 5,000 books in her house. I am not joking, and they're like zigzagged everywhere. Her shelves are crammed. That is my dream house. One day I hope my house has as many books as Eudora Welty, and I've read as many books as Eudora Welty, because she has read all of the books in her house. And then we went to the filming location from The Help by Catherine Stockett. So I just think Jackson is such a fantastic location for any book lover. Lemuria is hands down like one of my favorite bookstores ever, and I rave about this bookstore so much. They also have a lot of local authors coming in for events. I think right now they're doing all virtual events, and I think it's just a very amazing community driven bookstore. The other bookstore that I think is so stunning, so beautiful, and so underrated is Anticus, which is located in Scottsdale, Arizona. They were originally in a complex called Kierland Commons, but they've moved closer to the tourist district, so there's really no excuse for any book lover in Scottsdale not to visit. There is so much artwork, there are bronze sculptures, there are paintings, and they are vibrant and colorful, and everything blends in with this fiesta of books, and you just feel like you're walking through a gallery, but there are also books that you can purchase and take back, so it becomes more of an interactive gallery experience, and I loved every second of it. I loved looking at the art, I loved looking at the books. My eyes were never tired, but they were always occupied. The owner of the bookstore is an artist himself, and a lot of the artwork in this bookstore is by him. This is just definitely one of the most unique bookstores that I've been to. It is phenomenal, from the bronze sculptures to the Dr. Seuss illustrations. It's a very calming bookstore experience. If you are coming in like a high stress mode, this is one that just dissipates everything, because the palette is so soothing. I think all bookstores are soothing, but this is the most calming bookstore that I have ever been to. The next bookstore that I want to talk about is Full Circle in Oklahoma City. There were so many bookstores in Oklahoma that I was really considering for this list, but Full Circle is my hands down favorite. Every expectation that I have of a bookstore in my head, with like the floor to ceiling shelves with ladders. They had the bookshelves with the ladders. I love that. I don't know why I'm obsessed with bookshelves with ladders, and it was just such a magical experience. It's sort of meandering, and so you can take your time going through and seeing all of the shelves. There's a coffee shop on premise. It just has such a lovely atmosphere. It's located inside a mall in a very unassuming location, but they go full out for their displays. They do fun things seasonally. This is the largest independent bookstore in the entire state of Oklahoma, and I truly believe this claim because it is huge. They also had an entire room dedicated to travel books, which as a travel writer made me swoon. I was completely in love. I think just the shelving of it will sweep you into the atmosphere of this bookstore. It's the kind of bookstore you can easily spend hours in. There is so much to see. So the next bookstore that I want to talk about is Uncle Bobbie's, which is located in Philadelphia. This is my previous bookstore vlog. This bookstore was founded by Mark Lamont Hill. This bookstore curates specifically Blacklit. It has such a thriving, energetic vibe to it that I fell in love with. It was just very upbeat, very positive. The bookshop is a little bit to the side. So first they have the coffee shop area when you enter in, and then you can walk into another room. There's a line of bookshelves, and then it leads into the bookstore itself, which is another set of bookshelves that wraps around the second smaller room with a couch in the center. I loved Germantown, Philadelphia, and I think that definitely played in. So those are all the bookstores that I love to pieces in the United States. Let me know your favorite bookstores in the US. I also have a very big bookstore bucket list, and I have not really explored any of the West Coast. So Powell's is high on my list, and I have not explored the Northeast in a very long time. When I was in New York City, when my mom was staying there, we had the New York Public Library card, so we'd go to the New York Public Library, but if I go back, I would love to visit the Strand. I have this huge bucket list of bookstores that I want to see around the US. Let me know what your favorite bookstores are in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Bye guys!